Jerry. Thank you, brother.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jerry. So happens that I'm an alcoholic. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, about a week ago or so, my very good friend Joe from Chico called me and said, well, I'm coming down for the talk on Saturday. What's your theme? What are you going to talk about? Well, of course, we got a pretty good idea to talk about it during Recovery Month and who we are, but I thought about it and I said, well, I'd like to talk about the heart of the matter. You say, what do you mean, the heart of the matter? Well, and then I thought about it, the heart of the matter. What is the heart of the matter? This cunning, baffling, powerful thing called addiction. I said, it's really the soul of the matter. So rather than the heart of the matter, I'd like to talk this morning, in the 30 minutes that I have here, about the soul of the matter. And when I say soul, I'm not talking about soul in a theological sense. I'm not talking about soul in a religious sense. I'm talking about soul more as a Native American might call it, as the authentic self, the real self, or as a Gestalt therapist might refer to it as the core self. I do a lot of reflecting on my recovery and so on. It doesn't matter how many years you've been around, there's always work to do. I don't particularly care for the word drunkalogue, because drunkalogue really is just the drama part of the story. And I believe in the story, as all cultures refer to stories as something sacred, something that teaches us. So it's all about the story, and the Irish, the storytellers are the Shanachis. And all cultures have their storytellers, which are really teaching tools. So in our case, the drunkalogue is a little piece of our story. It's the dramatic part, and it can be a very painful part. You know, all the high drama. In my case, I ended up in prison. I got stabbed 5 times, left for dead in the street. And all the chaos and all the pain that it causes for families and children and so on and so forth. That is the drama. That is the drunkalogue. But there's also, who was I before I ever picked up the first drink? That's very, very important to me, because all the problems that were going on then, I had to bring forward sooner or later to journey through those steps to be healed if I wanted to be healed. I hope that makes sense, because when I think back, before I ever took the first drink, I was in trouble. Before I ever took the first drink, whether that was 13 or 14, I had low self-esteem. I had a lot of conflict in my head about the shadows and the light, about the good and the evil. Of course, being Irish Catholic didn't help too much. I wore guilt like a nice sweater, a tight sweater. And it's funny because I came from a family of 6 males, 5 boys and my dad. My dad was an alcoholic. Heroin and alcohol killed 3 of my brothers. It helped in my father's death at a young age. So I was this altar boy who wanted to be a good kid, who wanted to be holy. And on the other side, I liked to steal things. So there was this stuff going on. And I began to look outside. It was always outside. If I was tough enough, got enough fight, I'd be respected by the kids in grammar school. And I remember some fights. Just to be in it, I'd go into a rage just so I could fight better. I was just a kid. I wanted to be like all kids. Now, I don't know what healthy kids do. They find ways to go through all this stuff. If we're predispositioned, like I was, to become an alcoholic or an addict, being a sitting duck that I was, all these things were kind of dangerous. There was a loneliness deep inside before I ever took the first drink. Remember the Roy Orbison song, Only the Lonely? Only the lonely know how I feel tonight. Only the lonely know something ain't right. It was a great song. Now, I don't know what Roy Orbison was talking about, but I always identify with this song at some deeper level. And it wasn't that I was lonely for another human being or something outside. I thought that's what it was. So if I could just get another girlfriend, everything would make happy, everything would be fine, right? So I started going away, looking for that, to fulfill that thing deep inside. Neil Diamond in his song, one of the lines, there's an emptiness deep inside. And this emptiness was just swimming around, I think, all the time. So at one point, I think I was about 10 or 11, I decided, what I'll do is I'll become a priest. That's a good thing. So if I became a priest, I'd be somebody. That would be good. And besides, every Irish family should have at least one priest or a nun or somebody. I had cousins that were nuns. I had cousins that were priests. So I'll go become a priest. So I went off to the Salesian Seminary. And I stayed there for a couple of years. It was a good 2 years, but there was something at the end of the 2 years just said, time to go home. This wasn't for me. So I ended up at St. Ignatius High School in San Francisco. Same class as Jerry Brown, our governor. I didn't know him, but he was in the same class. And I stayed there for a year, and I couldn't get on the basketball team. So, I'm not good enough. They had a very good basketball team. So I went to one of the worst schools in the city. Not really the worst, but because I was able to get on the basketball team. So if I could be a basketball player, then I'd be somebody. So I got on the basketball team. I wasn't all that good. I think the most I ever scored was 6 points in a game. But then I got out of high school. I was even secretary of the student body of the high school. I never did anything, never wrote anything down. It was sort of like a title. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be liked. I had a lot of friends. I hung around down 24th Street where I grew up in San Francisco. And that's what it was about. There was this self-esteem. And I never felt quite right. You wouldn't know it on the surface because, hey, I'm cool. Let's go out. Let's, whatever. But I guess it was around the age of 13, after I came back from the seminary, that I discovered something wonderful. Alcohol. I mean, I grew up with it. It was all around the family. It killed a lot of my Irish cousins. A lot of them died from alcohol. My father died from it. But I never experienced it myself. When I experienced it for myself, I said, whoa, now I know why these people are drinking. It did something very special for me. The first time I drank, I got so sick. I was with all my friends. We were out at Lake Merced in San Francisco. We got drunk. We went fishing out there in the middle of the night. And I remember throwing up all over the highway. And 3 or 4 days later, I told my mother I had the flu or something. I was sick for a couple of days. But I remember come the next week, Thursday or Friday, I wanted to drink. I wanted to get drunk again. Well, some of my friends that were, I guess you'd call normal, what are you talking about? You remember how sick you got last week? I said, so what? I forgot the pain and remembered the high. It did something special for me. It did something very special. And as I said, I talked about soul, and that's what I call it. You can call it what you want, but there was something at that deep level that seemed to be missing that I lost track of now. When I took the first drink, that kid who had all those insecure problems, all that other stuff, didn't know who he was, wanted to be tough, wanted to be this, wanted to be that, that stopped growing. There was that emotional deficit at that time, and then I moved on and lost touch with the kid who had these problems, and then I moved into another zone. I think you know what I'm talking about. I moved into another zone, another field of consciousness, if you will. And all of a sudden, all of that became distractions for me. I forgot about the problems, the real problems. My soul wasn't in prison, I was in prison. I hope that makes sense. So the drinking started to become my medicine. Some Native American tribal peoples call this kind of addiction and so on, walking the procession of the living dead. And of course, they might call recovery the Good Red Road or soul retrieval. Isn't that interesting? The journey of soul retrieval. So anyway, I began to have a lot of problems. The drama began. I joined the Marines, another runaway. At the age of 18, lied about my age when I was 16, joined the Navy Reserve. Now I could be somebody, had a uniform. I was a sailor. I didn't like the word sailor, so I transferred to the Seabees, construction battalions. And after a while, I didn't even like the Navy uniform. I said, this is a wussy uniform. I'm going to join the Marines. I always wanted something else to make me feel okay. So I joined the Marines. All my buddies and I were out one night drunk down 24th Street, and we all decided, because we saw this movie, Battle Cry. I don't know how many of you remember that. It was in the 50s. Battle Cry. Van Heflin, and it was all about the Marines and Korea. I said, I'm joining the Marines. And they all said they're going to join too. Well, the next morning they woke up, they were kind of smart. I was the only one who showed up at the recruiting office. Only the lonely. So I joined the Marines, spent 3 years, did a lot of drinking, just got crazier and crazier with the drinking. Somehow managed to become a sergeant, which is kind of unusual. At the age of 21, I became a sergeant. One was a meritorious promotion for some ridiculous thing. And I was fortunate. I was in between Korea and Vietnam. And I was almost going to re-enlist. Thank God I didn't. So I got out of the Marines. So now what am I going to become? Make me feel good. I'll become a San Francisco cop. So I took the test and everything and passed the test, but they turned me down because I had had a speeding ticket or some damn thing. So I got my oldest brother, my brother Kevin, I got to help me write a letter. He was a college teacher at the time, high school teacher, and very, very bright. And we wrote a letter to the San Francisco Police Department saying, how dare you not allow me to become a policeman? My great-grandfather worked on the waterfront here, an immigrant. My father worked on the waterfront. My grandfather worked on the waterfront. We are San Franciscans. And you're hiring these people from out of, they bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Now there's our boy. 6 months later, they kicked me off. I swore, this is an insidious disease, I swore I would never drink on the job. Policemen don't do that. First night on the beat, rookie cop. First bar I walked into. Officer, would you like a drink? Sure, give me a little shot. It's cold out there, you know. Midnight shift. All our best intentions, we become who we really don't want to be. We become a caricature of soul. Where is soul? There's so many books written with the word soul in it. I'm reading a book now a beautiful book called The Untethered Soul. And I was just thinking about these titles. Eldridge Cleaver's book, Soul on Ice, remember? Elie Wiesel's book about the Jewish slaughter during the war. Soul on Fire. All stuff about soul. Well, I thought, the soul cannot be frozen. I was frozen. The soul cannot be tethered. It cannot be locked up. I was in prison. I was imprisoned by my substance, alcohol. Soul was waiting outside the gates Come on home, Jerry. But we have the free will. So I drank. Bad things happened. When I was 27 years old, I was a liquor salesman. And running around San Francisco selling booze, I thought I was in heaven. I told you I already got kicked off the police department now. I'm running around drinking. At the age of 27, I went to pick up my wife, who was 9 months pregnant. She worked at the Mount Zion Hospital in San Francisco after work. She wasn't ready, so I went and drank some more. And before that night was over, never did go back to pick up my wife. Before that night was over, I was stabbed 5 times, left for dead in the street, taken to San Francisco General, and I thought I was a goner, of course. And when I came to there, a priest was giving me the last rites. If you're Catholic, you know what that's about. A priest was there putting oil on my feet. That means extreme unction. I mean, that's the last rites. It's sayonara, see ya. So, obviously, I didn't die. But I remember thinking, have you ever read about NDEs, near-death experiences and all that stuff? I remember thinking, I got to get through that tunnel to the other side. Maybe mom will be there, maybe dad will be there, maybe my brothers will be there. I got to get through that tunnel. Well, my mother was still alive. She wouldn't be there. But I fought my father. Maybe my brother Don. I couldn't even find the tunnel. So obviously they didn't want me over there. So my wife convinced me to go see the psychiatrist. I went to see the psychiatrist. He didn't even mention the word alcoholic. I was just running around drinking all the time. I just got stabbed 5 times, left for dead in the street because I wasn't using my head because the alcohol was running my life. And what he said was, I think you're a compulsive drinker. Oh, come on. No shit, doc. I mean, I think you're a compulsive drinker. Didn't use the word alcoholic. I said, okay, and then I made promises. I went to the priest and made the pledge, like some Irish people do. I made the pledge, but then during the pledge I said, well, not on birthdays, though, or holidays, or Christmas, things like that. So I was conning myself constantly, and things just got worse. Things just got worse and worse and worse until my wife left one day, and she says, you know, she says, you got to do something about the drinking. We lived in an apartment up in Belmont, and Sherry's family came from San Jose. And so she went back home for a little bit, and not for long. I mean, I'm hard to stay away from for a while, so charming, you know. But the thing was that she did convince me to do something. I said, well, what I'll do is I'll go to the central office, which was downtown San Jose at the time. I'll get the book. I'll read the book. So I did. I went and got the book and so on. I said, hey, this is cool. I love stories. And I went right to the back and read all the stories. Okay? I said, these are nice stories. And when you think about it, all those stories, they're really stories about soul retrieval. They're stories about coming home. If you choose to go home. Some of us should go a little of the way and then we turn back. It's too scary. So I started going to meetings and I heard the stories and I said, this is great. And at the time I was a liquor salesman and once a month I'd go to Fresno. And on that trip I'd stay overnight. So I decided I'll only drink when I go to Fresno. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm an alcoholic in San Jose, but I'm not an alcoholic in Fresno. So, it's, and then some people are concerned in the second step when it says we're nuts. Of course we're nuts. I mean, maybe we're not clinically nuts, but we're nuts. So I did all this insane thinking, and, this was causing pain at home, all this stuff, this is the drunkalogue stuff. It's very painful. I couldn't drink on a daily basis anymore, so I became a binge drinker. I had no problem staying sober for months at a time. But I wasn't taking care of soul. So I was doomed to go back to the bad medicine, my alcohol. I was doomed to keep getting back in the ring with the champ who was beating the living hell out of me. Because that's what I knew to do, because I wasn't taking care of soul, which is the whole 12-step journey, not just a piece of it. Soul retrieval. But what I did begin to discover, I mean, things got worse and worse and worse, and I was getting DUIs and spent a few days drunk, and then finally, something began to click. And what happened was I got a good 12-year run with the recovery. And during that 12 years, I had about 40 different jobs in my life, maybe more. And I was always kind of looking for the job that would fulfill me at this level, that would open my heart. And finally, I got it. I became a counselor in the field. This was in the 60s, I believe, sometime. And I got a sponsor. My sponsor owned a program, and I went to work for him. And I did some study, and I became a counselor. And I became the program director at a hospital down. These probably, the early years, they were probably the happiest years of my life. I found a deep sense of peace at that soul level. See, there's something that no human power could do for us. I always thought, and I got the best wife in the world. She's been with me in January, it'll be 50 years. Stuck with me through all the thin and thin. And, but that wasn't enough to keep me sober. I got great kids. That wasn't enough to keep me sober. But I managed, when I got this thing, something at a deeper level, I found a sense of peace. But I forgot that you had to maintain that at all costs. That the price we pay for recovery is eternal vigilance. And now over the years, I don't know if I just got cocky, or I think the complacent is a better word. I just got complacent. And I was going through changes, natural changes in life and things. And right away, the things from the kid again, the insecurities that I didn't deal with, the low self-esteem, the fears, the projections, started to wake up again. That insecure kid was still alive inside. And after 12 years, I went out and picked up a drink again. And as a result, ended up killing a man in an automobile accident. And in a short period of time, was sentenced to 6 years in prison. This was after 12 years and being a counselor and so on. They made a big deal out of it because this guy was a counselor and blah, 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 blah. So no matter what, when I look back, to me, it's still a sacred journey. And how does soul fit into this all now? When you're sitting in prison for a few years, you got time to do a lot of reflecting. You got time to really take a look. And I don't mean analyze, just really take a look, what happened? There's the physical, there's the emotional, there's the mental, and the spiritual. And the spiritual, to me, is the soul aspect of who we are, the core self. And it's like I disconnected from that. The physical stuff felt good. I could eat better, and so on and so forth. But I learned that if I'm going to do the steps, I have to do them right. So I realized that first 3 steps were the foundations of recovery. The next 8, up through 10, are the initiation period. You can build a foundation, but if you don't do the work after that, you can't maintain the house. So that sort of went downhill because I wasn't doing all the work. I kind of skipped some and went to step 11 and thought, that's not, and that's called airhead spirituality. Did not do the work. So when I finally realized I started to do the work, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with means a different field of consciousness, to wake up to soul. I can't be there all the time, be that present all the time. But step 11 was powerful, and then step 12 comes a really powerful thing. If you really did the work, something happens, and something wonderful happens. The finest expression of soul, the most powerful expression of soul comes in step 12 when one alcoholic reaches out to another. Something happens. Something miraculous happens. I've worked with alcoholics for years and years and years. And when I'm sitting with another alcoholic, at peace with myself, no ego involved, listening to this other's pain, I feel no pain. When I walked into the office or I met that person, I may have been feeling sorry for myself. It's not been a good day, acting like a 12-year-old again. But when all of a sudden somebody's sitting in front of me, the pain goes. There's a Chinese proverb, the best things cannot be told. The second best are misunderstood. I've witnessed so many miracles in this program, it's unbelievable. The changes it can make, not just in others, in my own life. Miracles that happen for me. Miracles happen in my family. My son's in recovery, my daughter's in recovery, my other daughter is doing a wonder. I'm so fortunate. Friends, my wife, black belt Al-Anon. Powerful lady, I love her dearly. My rock, so to speak. And I mean that. But that is powerful. Having had a spiritual awakening, that's an assumption that we woke up. We passed it to alcoholics, and the clincher tried to practice these principles in all our affairs. But I'll just repeat one more time, and then I'd like to just close with a blessing here. The most powerful expression of soul. Florence Ziegfeld, the man who started the Ziegfeld Follies in the 20s, I wasn't there then, by the way, said, what did he say? My mind went blank for a minute. Anyway, something about when you stoop to help another is the most powerful thing. Oh, a man never stands so tall as when he stoops to help another. I think this room and many rooms I attend are filled with stoopers. Thank God. I'd like to close with just a brief blessing. And this blessing was written by an Irish mystic and poet by the name of John O'Donohue, who, sad to say, passed away a couple years ago at a young age. And this comes from his book called Beannacht, which means blessing in Gaelic. And the name of the book is Bless the Space Between Us. But this is one of the blessings in the book. May you recognize in your life the presence, power, and light of your soul. May you realize that you are never alone, that your soul in its brightness and belonging connects you intimately with the rhythm of the universe. May you have respect for your individuality and difference. May you realize that the shape of your soul is unique, that you have a special destiny here, that behind the facade of your life, there is something beautiful and eternal happening. May you learn to see yourself with the same delight, pride, and expectation with which God sees you in every moment. Thank you.